Why do humans create war when peace is easier? At first glance, war makes no sense. It destroys cities that took generations to build. It takes lives that cannot be replaced. It scars bodies, families, and memories long after the fighting ends. And yet, throughout history, humanity keeps returning to it. Not because people are evil, but because something in human nature struggles with stillness, difference, and uncertainty. War rarely begins with hatred. It begins with fear. Fear of losing control. Fear of losing identity. Fear of being erased, ignored, or overtaken. When fear goes unspoken, it hardens. When it hardens, it seeks direction. And when fear finds a story to attach itself to, it becomes conflict. Most wars do not start with weapons. They start with language. With us and them. With stories that simplify complex realities into enemies and allies. With the belief that safety can only exist if someone else loses. Peace, on the other hand, requires something far more difficult than force. It requires restraint. It requires patience. It requires listening to perspectives that make us uncomfortable. It demands emotional maturity, the ability to tolerate uncertainty without reaching for domination. That is why peace is harder than war. War gives structure. It creates clear signs. It offers a sense of purpose, even if that purpose is destructive. It simplifies a complex world into something easier to understand. Friend or enemy, right or wrong, win or lose. Peace has no such simplicity. It asks people to live with contradiction, to accept that multiple truths can exist at once. That safety cannot be achieved by eliminating others, only by learning to coexist. At a deeper level, war reflects an inner conflict made external. When individuals or societies fail to face their own fears, frustrations, or unresolved pain, those emotions seek an outlet. They often find it in confrontation. It is easier to project anger outward than to confront it within. This is why wars often begin during periods of uncertainty, economic stress, cultural change, loss of identity. In these moments, people crave certainty and belonging. Leaders who promise clarity, strength, and protection gain power even when the cost is destruction. Peace, on the other hand, requires trust. Trust that dialogue can replace domination. Trust that differences do not automatically mean danger. Trust that compromise is not weakness. These ideas are difficult to hold on to when fear is loud and constant. And yet, every generation that avoids war does so not because it lacks the capacity to fight, but because it chooses restraint over reaction. True peace is not passive. It is an active, ongoing effort to resist the instinct to dehumanize. The tragedy is that humanity often understands this only after immense loss. When war ends, people ask how it ever began. They promise never again. But memory fades. Fear returns in new forms, and the cycle risks repeating unless something deeper changes. Perhaps the real challenge is not learning how to stop wars, but learning how to sit with discomfort without turning it into violence, to listen without needing to dominate, to accept that security does not come from control, but from connection. Peace is not the absence of conflict. It is the presence of understanding. And until humanity learns to sit with uncertainty without turning it into fear, war will always feel like an option even when it should never be one.